he allowed them into Jerusalem for many until the Crusaders came, and then the Crusaders kicked them out. But then when Salahuddin came back, he actually designated the Western Wall, the Kotel, as a place where the Jews could pray. And for centuries, Muslims believed that the Jews lived in good relations as a protected minority. The dhimma is not a negative thing; it's actually positive. It means you are protected. It means you are protected. Now, in 1930s, war broke out in Europe. Now, obviously, this is the Islamic narrative. There's a lot I'm missing out.
Yeah,
there's a lot I'm missing out. Yeah. There was a war in Germany, a war in Europe, and millions of Jews were brutally and senselessly murdered. And Muslims are outraged by this. And Muslims played no part in this. Yet somehow, these displaced European Jews, who are white and not brown and not from the area, they came, this is the Muslim narrative, yeah? They came into the land and they slowly started taking over. The Palestinians, this is the Islamic narrative or the anti-Zionist narrative.
Joseph is speaking the truth for the first time in his life.
Good, this is a good conversation.
So Adnan, I understand, unlike you, I actually understand your arguments better than you do. And you have to do the same thing. We'll see how cowardly you are.
We'll see.
We'll see how cowardly you are.
We'll see.
So then the Palestinians, now this is what they believe.
Yeah.
The Palestinians opened up their houses.
So these shayateen know the truth.
Let them go, this is cool.
So opened up their houses, and these European colonizers, who were part of a settler colonial project to take the land, actually deceptively then stole the land. They used, according to their tradition, violence, and there was a big war which was initiated.
Let him speak the truth for a change.
We're talking in 48 or before 48?
This is, well, it's very hard to go into the history without history. So let's just say in 48 took the West Bank and they called it part of Jordan. And the Palestinians that were living there were given citizenship of Jordan. And Egypt took Gaza. And then in 67, the Zionists, according to their tradition, launched a war and then took the West Bank and took Gaza. And since that point, from their position, they have had a military occupation of which they have oppressed the Palestinians and acted according to their tradition or their belief, an apartheid.
Sure.
Now, and the latest round of violence is actually, according to them, a reaction to what they would consider an apartheid, a blockade, etc. on Gaza and the West Bank, and they believe it's to use the language that they would often use. If you cage someone, you can't be surprised when they break out of that cage. It's language that they use. It's the language they use. And the gentleman made the analogy here to the Warsaw Ghetto, which is they will often compare it to. They will look at. Actually, that's not still my name. I'll avoid that. I'll avoid that. And now, what we have today in Gaza is a disproportionate response where, according to their numbers, 14,000 civilians have been killed by a military force, which is one of the most powerful forces is indiscriminately killing Palestinians. So that is a very, very brief summary of the standard narrative you'll hear here.
Dude, congratulations, thank you very much.
Now let's say Adnan.
Yeah.
Take over.
Yeah. Adnan, can you see he made a sincere attempt there, yeah?
This was a good attempt.
Okay, great. Now,
It was-
in response,
okay.
could you make a
In
similar
response to
attempt?
the Israeli narrative is the Jewish people have suffered for centuries. Okay, they suffered persecution from the Christians and the Muslims. This is the Israeli narrative, that even the Muslims oppressed the Jewish people. Therefore, in the 19th century, the anti-Semitic feeling was very, very high. Europe was filled with anti-Semitism. So the Jewish people, in particular, this group of political activists called Zionists, they came about and they decided that we want to make a separate homeland for ourselves where we can protect ourselves from the Christian oppression and the Muslim oppression, and we will make ourselves strong. So we will go in.
Sorry, for me, what year roughly are you talking?
19th century. This is Theodor Herzl, who wrote the book called The Jewish State, and the first Zionist conference took place in 1897 in Switzerland, where this prospect was discussed, and the Zionists even went to
Fact check him. He's doing good.
Sorry, I got distracted by a
yeah. So Zionists went to convince the Turkish Sultan to give away the land of Palestine in return for paying off his debts he owed to the Europeans. The Turkish Sultan refused. Zionists waited for their time, and then First World War happened, and the British took the land of Palestine, and then Arthur Balfour, graciously gave the land of Palestine to the Zionist movement, in particular Lord Rothschild. He promised this land. This is all Zionist narrative.
Balfour gave it to the Palestinians?
No.
He said,
Zionist.
I misunderstood.
Yeah, Lord Rothschild, he wrote him a letter that Palestine will be given to you. Okay. Now, this is a Zionist narrative. Okay. So we will go in and we will take the land. Okay. By the way, I can produce evidence for every single thing I'm saying right here from the Zionists. Okay. So Zionists had meetings to discuss how we're going to take the land. Obviously, we cannot go and buy all the land, so we're going to have to take this land. Okay. Okay. So So we will. So I'm speaking as the devil's advocate. Diabli advocatus. Okay, advocatus diabli, as they say, right? Okay. So we will go in and we will take this land from the Palestinians by hook or by crook, and we will pressurize the British to give up this land. Okay, and we will conduct some bombing campaigns. I'm talking facts.
That's not what we're doing.
You're still mad.
The official.
You're meant to be
arguing. If you were an Israeli,
Okay.
You would never use that language.
Okay. Let me be an Israeli. Let me be a lying Israeli then. Let me be Mark Regev. Okay. Let me pretend to be Mark Regev, although it's not a pleasant.
The work is good.
Okay. So we are an oppressed people. We have to have a homeland. We came into Palestine, and these Palestinians are just making noise. They are a bunch of violent people. They are not civilized. Okay, so we have to protect ourselves.
That's how they'd express it.
Yes,
themselves?
100%. Yeah, Mark Regev has said this multiple.
He's one Israeli.
But he's the spokesperson. He's the official spokesperson.
Sorry, when has Mark Regev ever said
and that woman, the ambassador. Zippy.
She's never said anything
she has
like
said
that.
she doesn't sympathize with the Palestinians at all,
So you
especially those people who want to kill us. So the Palestinian wants to. This is the narrative, official narrative of the Israelis. No, it is official narrative of the Israelis that Palestinians want to kill us. We cannot give up this land. We gave the Palestinians a chance. Okay, we gave. My position is more difficult than his. Okay, my position is more difficult.
Can I still my own argument?
Okay.
Let him bring it up to date.
So Palestinians were given a chance to have their own homeland. Yasser Arafat refused it. Okay, he had the chance to basically have his own state, but PLO flatly refused it. We gave them a chance. They want to kill us all. We have to protect ourselves. We have to protect our children. Rockets come to us every day. Our life is very difficult. Difficult. We are innocent, civilized people living in this land as a democracy. The only democracy in the Middle East. No, this is the Israeli narrative. Okay, this is what I've heard on the news.
Yes.
We are the only democracy in the Middle East. We are the only country that represents the Western civilization, and we are with the civilized world. And the Palestinians are bloodthirsty. They want to kill us all. Hamas wants to wipe us out, completely wipe us off the face of the earth. Yes, 100%. Yes, Hamas. I said Hamas. Hamas. Okay, Hamas. We allowed the Palestinians to live in peace. We allowed the Palestinians. Listen, guys.
I may be fucking it up. Sorry, you guys carry on. Maybe I'm just
Listen, now it's my turn. So Hamas is bloodthirsty. Hamas wants to wipe us out. They have this written in their manifesto, in their constitution, that they want to wipe out the Jewish people. Okay, Hamas are a terrorist organization. Okay, and Palestinians are basically we try to live with them in peace, but it's not happening. Okay, we have to protect ourselves. Okay, and we are not targeting children. We're not targeting hospitals. We are going after Hamas terrorists who are hiding in these hospitals and in these civilian buildings. They are using these children as human shields. So that's why, as an inconvenience, we have to bomb these buildings so that we can kill these Hamas terrorists, because they are hiding behind these children. So this is, in a nutshell, the Israeli narrative.
You agree with him, and that's why you think it makes sense. As a Zionist, that was not a
And also, let me add very quickly. Also, final in this 7th of October attack, Hamas beheaded our babies and they raped women and they committed atrocities. They killed 1,400 people. This is the Israeli narrative.
Okay, look, I've got to say, as a layman who doesn't know the history very well, I thought you did some pretty good stuff.
Okay.
I don't know how accurate. Can you not see that?
No, so I'm going to explain why that wasn't as good faith as mine.
But can you?
Yeah, so let me answer it.
Was there any good faith?
I think there was some good faith, but not a lot. So what you tended to see with Adnan's speech was it framed the negative sides of a Zionist argument. Whereas with mine, I tried to frame the positive side.
I did. Democracy, civilized, very civilized.
Allow me to speak.
Okay,
so when you use
speak.
language like bloodthirsty and it focuses on the aggression that's coming, and a justification of Israeli aggression is what he's doing. He is trying to justify, from a Zionist perspective, a justification of aggression with the language he's using. Whereas with mine,
I thought I heard him say that you thought Hamas was bloodthirsty, and I think you do think Hamas is bloodthirsty.
No, he said Palestinians. He said Palestinians.
No, Hamas. I said Hamas.
He corrected himself later.
And Palestinians. Okay, challenge me on this, and I'll produce evidence from Israeli officials using the word Palestinians.
Yeah, you'll definitely be able to
Challenge me, and I'll produce it.
I don't doubt you will be able
There
to
you
find
go.
the
So don't strong.
The purpose of a steel man is not to find.
Yeah.
The purpose of a steel man is not to find the aspects of the society, the other side that you disagree with. So you obviously think that's a negative, yeah? It's a negative. If that was an aggressive stance that an Israeli took, that's not a positive. The purpose of a steel man is you try to frame the debate in a positive way.
But
I try to represent the Palestinian argument from a positive perspective. I did not focus on justifying the terrorism. I did not focus on justifying acts of barbarism or anything, which is clearly what I believe. But that's how you took the argument, because I don't think you.
Nonetheless, I think you said some very commendable and accurate things.
So let's deal with one of them.
I think his ability to emphasise how
the Israelis would put their argument forward.
How
as absurd as it may be.
How Israelis felt historically depressed, how they felt they needed a homeland, how they felt that.
They are the only democracy. They're the only civilized democracy.
That's not what Zionists believe. No,
they're the only civilized democracy in the Middle East.
Okay, so now I'm going to give you. So Zionists do not believe we were given the land. No credible Zionists.
No, they took the land. The Zionists believe they took the land.
Zionists believe we took the land.
They did. Of course. Of course. They are taking the land now. The settlers, come on, what do you mean astaghfirullah? The settlers are taking the land right now. As we speak, there are settlers taking the land. What are you talking about now?
We do agree, we do agree that the United Nations has passed over 100, I think over 100 condemnations.
The United Nations has condemned Israel more than any other nation on the world.
Okay, that is true.
And they don't care.
Yes, but that doesn't mean it's just that millions of people have been killed in other countries.
Listen, they don't care because they got all Western politicians by the balls. They got them by the balls.
We can analyze the fact. I just want to agree.
Maybe it's Epstein. Maybe it's Epstein.
The way to do things.
Maybe Epstein left behind some database.
Adnan, wait. The first thing we do is we put facts on the table and agree what the facts are. Then you evaluate them. I'm just saying it is a fact, isn't it, that the UN has condemned...
Can I explain something to you?
I just want to know if that's a fact.
Yeah, so yes, it's a fact. Now let me respond.
Agree it's a fact?
No, can I?
What's
we
that?
all agree
the UN has condemned Israel.
You two, just so you know, you two are on the same side here. So you have to play fair. You are not a neutral party. You are not neutral.
How is he not? Look, he's stating a fact.
He believes that Israel's carrying out an apartheid. He believes that Israel is an aggressor.
Not doing a genocide.
UN.
I believe it.
There are human rights organizations saying this.
So, which UN?
I believe it does.
You challenge me on that?
No, Human Rights Watch should say that.
Yes,
Yes,
the whole world. Hello. The whole world is against. The whole world is against you.
I know.
The whole world
it always
is against
has been. But thank God Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not against us. Thank God Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala returned us to our land.
So if your narrative is true, for the last 2,000 years, what was Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doing with you? If your narrative is true, why was he killing you persecuting you through Christians and Muslims. If your narrative, where was Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the last 2,000 years? Suddenly he has appeared now and he's supporting a genocidal state. What kind of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is this?
You know my scripture as well as I know my scripture.
No, you don't
know. The scripture is
You're making claims that are false.
Anyway,
Allah is not with you. Allah is not. You are truly unfortunate that you're doing these crimes. Allah is not with the criminal. Allah is not even crimes. Even crimes. Allah is not with the criminals.
Anyway, just come back to what we're saying. So the reason
Allah does not love the oppressors. The Quran says Allah does not love oppression.
The last 10 minutes has been much better.
Yes.
I think as a viewer it's been much better.
Yeah.
The
Absolutely, I agree.
The United Nations is a democracy of dictatorships. The UN Human Rights Commission is headed by countries like Iran. Like all of us would agree that Iran is not the beacon of human rights.
How many members are there in the UN?
No, in the Human Rights Council. They headed.
Okay, let me say something. Iran is 1 million times better as a country, as a state, as much as I don't like Iran. I don't like Iran. But Iran, in comparison to Israel, has never killed innocent civilians.
Iran has never killed innocent civilians.
Wait. Iran has never attacked another country, to my knowledge, apart from Syria and these. Iraq.
We're on the UN 100. We're on the UN 100 issue.
Iran.
You've all agreed it's a fact. Joseph seems to be arguing that the UN is fundamentally
So
misguided or corrupt.
no, can I explain? So the United Nations, how the United Nations works, is it's basically a democratic process, but the entities within it are not necessarily democratic. So nobody would look at a nation state like Iran and say they are a democracy, a functioning democracy. And so what happens is nations vote on United Nations resolutions in accordance to their nation's foreign policy. Now, the state of Israel is one tiny state, and there's a lot of nations in the world that don't want it to exist, and they don't like it. And some of those nations have serious weight. Israel has one ally, really, at the United Nations, which is America, which will veto a lot of the Security Council resolutions. You basically have General Assembly resolutions and Security Council resolutions. And so the reason, so if you look at conflicts in the world, you would expect, and this is the point, you would expect the UN resolutions to fall roughly in line with like actual things like death tolls, levels of oppression. Now, if you add all the United Nations resolutions up in the world that they've ever issued, and then for the rest of the world and Israel, they've issued more resolutions against Israel than all the rest of the world.
Rightly so.
Rightly so. Let me finish.
Why not?
Now, if you look at Iraq and Syria, if you look at Syria, oh, yeah, you're so neutral.
He's right. He's right.
Allow me to finish, and then you can argue with me, Mr. Neutral.
I'm not completely.
I know that.
I'm trying to be.
So now allow
objective.
me to. So you be objective with this. In Syria, 500,000 people to 1 million people were killed by ISIS. ISIS, by every measure,
a million people killed by ISIS.
500,000.
Hold on. As evil as they were, as
Adnan,
evil.
Listen to what before you start defending Daesh. Listen to what I said.
Defending. I said, as evil as they are, they haven't killed a million.
Are you saying? I said 500,000 to 1 million people in Syria were killed in the Syrian conflict. Now, Adnan's going to debate against this, fine. Everyone can Google and look at the research. Between 500,000 and 1 million in Syria, 1 million in Iraq. You look at
so
like
Israel can kill a few thousand as well.
Adnan. Khalas. We're having a grown-up
So
conversation.
just because Bashar al-Assad killed people, Israel can also do it.
A grown-up conversation. You can respond once I finish my point. That's how it works.
Okay.
So if you look at
I'm putting my gloves on.
You look at the Houthis and the Tutsis. You look at all the conflicts in the world.
I want peace.
Which have millions of people killed, like around the world, from Nigeria to Kenya to Sudan, Somalia. All of these conflicts with millions. Some of the worst genocides humanity has ever experienced.
The UN hasn't.
And listen. All of those conflicts added together, there were more resolutions issued against Israel where the death toll, even if you were to go with the most, I don't know how to phrase it because it's not the most, the highest estimates, would still number less than 100,000 casualties on both sides. Yeah? And so you have more resolutions issued against the Jewish state
Yeah.
than all of those other genocides and wars combined.
And what inference are you drawing from that?
I'm saying
Yeah.
that the reason
Exactly.
the United Nations issues resolutions based on nations' foreign policies, and there are many Arab nations and Muslim nations that are opposed to Israel, which have huge influence within the United Nations, and that is why, in the last year, maybe 150,000 people, certainly since the beginning of the conflict, 150,000 people have been killed in Yemen. And in this conflict in Israel, even if you were to use Hamas's numbers, it's only 14,000. Yet Yemen's barely been mentioned at the United Nations, and Israel is mentioned every single. They've got a special commission just for Israel.
Are you not using a two wrongs make a right argument?
No,
Where
I'm saying
sorry,
there's
let
a
me
bias
confuse
within the
you.
United
Spoke for what?
Nations.
As a layman, it sounds to me like you're saying that because the United Nations has been lax in their condemnation of Yemen, it follows that their condemnation of Israel is
No,
valid.
you're missing
I
what
have
I'm
a
saying.
response
You're
to all
missing
of
what I'm
this.
saying. You're
I have a
not
response
understanding
to
what
all
I'm
of
saying
this.
at all.
Okay, maybe
So,
I'm not.
so,
So
so,
no,
no,
being clear for the
so
audience.
what
That
he's
makes
saying,
sense.
what he's saying is that there is an overwhelming opposition against Israel because of the Arab states and the influence of the United Nations. That may be so.
Yeah,
that may be
that's
so.
what I'm saying.
But can
Really?
yeah, that may be so.
That is
Yeah,
what I'm saying.
yeah, yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know. Oh, mate,
Yeah,
that's what I'm
yeah,
saying.
well, then
yeah,
you can-
yeah.
Wow.
But having said that, can United Nations just make up evidence against Israel? Can they? Yeah, they potentially can. But have they is the question. No, they haven't. Every time they condemned Israel, it is based upon evidence, solid evidence against illegal settlements, against apartheid treatment of the Palestinians, against the concentration camp in Gaza, against all the evil actions of the
That
state
was
of
my-
Israel.
so can I
Okay,
respond to that?
okay.
Yeah.
So it is all evidence.
I'll let you speak, then I'll
So
respond.
Joseph has no defense against the state of Israel because the whole world, okay, he can say, oh, we are alone, we were oppressed, God is with us, we will overcome all these obstacles, we will fight the world, we will destroy the world in the process if we have to. Okay, this is the argument he's giving. But if Joseph had any sense, and people like him in Israel, if they had any sense, they would listen to the world, that why is the world against us? Okay, or why are we against the world? Where are we going with this genocide? Are we going to kill all Palestinians? Or are we going to stop this at one point? What are we trying to do? We have bought all the politicians. We have bought all the media houses. We have influenced all these people. Still it's not happening. Still it's not happening. Still the world is against us. How far do we want to go with this?
Can you help me out now? I'm
Yeah.
genuinely confused. So
Yeah.
maybe people watching are confused.
Yeah.
I had honestly thought I could trust the UN. Okay?
Yeah.
Maybe I'm naive.
Yeah.
So I thought when they pass 100 sanctions against Israel, they have a point.
Yeah.
And then they only implement about 6 of them in terms of sanctions or whatever.
They can't do
That's-
anything.
right,
They're
so that
powerless
seemed that
because the US vetoes every
Right, because of the
action.
US.
Yeah.
So as a layman, I got the impression that the UN
Yeah,
is
France and Britain as well, by the way.
prejudiced in favour of Israel largely because America will veto what happens there, yeah? Which doesn't speak
Sorry,
well
say
to
that
the,
again. I don't think I
that
understood
the
what you said.
UN is prejudiced in favour of Israel.
The UN is not prejudiced.
No,
in
it's not.
favour.
It's not. We're not
It
saying that.
issues more
UN,
resolutions than any other
UN,
Yes, but the fact that it
UN
then does-
cannot.
the fact that it
UN
then
No,
cannot.
he's- what he's-
No,
what
what I'm
Adnan's
saying
saying
is
is right.
UN,
He's saying that
UN
Adnan-
cannot take action
Because
against
the-
Israel
America
because the
vetoes.
US
Yeah.
vetoes every
Yeah,
single
yeah, so they can-
motion.
right.
So if there's a motion against Israel to take action, to impose sanctions, to stop them, to take political action against them, the US vetoes, and France, and France, and Britain.
I get it.
Okay.
I
That
get
doesn't
it.
mean they've
So
got
let me
the-
run
Okay.
by my understanding. So,
Yeah.
although
Yeah.
they make 100
So-
condemnations on the they make 100 condemnations. I'm trying to learn. Okay, I thought I knew
Good
this.
luck.
I thought I knew this, and now I'm thinking maybe I don't know this. I thought they made 100 condemnations, but then they only implemented sanctions or whatever in response to very few of them. So that speaks that they're not willing to actually
Listen,
deliver on
The
the things
UN
they
is not
condemn.
going
So
to do
why is
anything.
everyone
I'm telling you right
against
now, the UN is not going to do anything. If they wanted to do something, it's been 70 years.
So
It's
they-
been 70 years
they
since
are
the
part of-
Israelis have been brutalizing the Palestinian people.
So this
The
is
whole
the-
world knows this. Okay,
I
everyone
happen
knows
to
this.
agree with you,
okay,
but I'm
okay.
hearing- I was
the
amazed
solution,
that you both agreed
the
the
solution
UN
is with the Israeli people themselves. I believe, sincerely, I believe, Israeli people will rise against their own government and they will change things because they know we cannot
think
go
so.
on. There are intellectuals in Israel. There are scholars. There are philosophers. There are thinkers. There are sincere people in there. There are noble and moral people in
What
there.
if they disagree with you?
Okay.
And they agree with me?
Okay. So they are Israelis. They are Jewish, but they're not Zionist. Okay. Many of them. Okay. I can name them. I can name them.
So
They
which
they
ones don't
they
believe the
are
state of Israel should exist?
they are going to become so influential that they will change. They will remove Muppets and jokers and clowns like Netanyahu, cronies, these right-wing, hateful,
not evil,
racist,
by the way.
apartheid-driven genocidal criminals. They will have to go because they are criminals. They are criminals. And Joseph, I hope we live to see this, both of us. We will get old if we don't die before that. Me and
We're
Joseph,
already old,
we have
Adnan.
known, we have known each other. I hope we will live to see this change in our lifetime. Inshallah, Israel will change. Things will change. The Jewish people will live in the land of Israel or in the land of Palestine. In the land of Palestine, I must say, as they have for the last 1,000 years under the rule of Islam. Under the rule of Islam, they will live again. Yeah, yeah.
So now Adnan spoke for a
And
while.
for details, I invite you to watch my podcast with
invite you to
Muhammad
Islam.
Hijab.
I will, because I'm really impressed that you participated.
Okay, Muhammad Hijab, I did a podcast with him where I presented the evidence from Jewish sources as to how they felt under the rule of Islam. I put out
then when
plenty
they
of
speak on you say
plenty of
liars.
evidence from
You call
primary
Maimonides a liar.
and secondary.
When would this be? When
It's already done.
no, when in history were they under?
Since
I
the birth of
presented
Islam, we've been under
presented
Islam.
evidence for 1,000 years. From Jewish rabbis, from Jewish travelers, from Jewish thinkers and scholars who lived under the domain of Islam and secondary sources. I presented primary sources and then I presented secondary
we've done
sources
this
from
debate
modern,
many times, the Muslim
modern.
Jewish
Go and watch this podcast with Muhammad Hijab and see the case we the Muslims
will.
have for the Jewish people. So this is
then-
not about the Jewish people.
will. Because you steel manned, I will.
Then what I will do, I would encourage you to not watch Adnan and Rashid talk about Jews, but speak to Jews from Muslim countries and ask them. So they
Actually,
can
hang on,
recommend Jews.
this is a good question to ask. If
No,
you were
no,
going to
no,
recommend, hang on, wait. If you were going to recommend to me as a layman one podcast to watch,
I
to
can
learn
I
the
don't know
history,
podcasts. I can recommend
okay,
books.
what can I watch on YouTube?
I don't know.
Watch an Israeli spokesperson.
No, he's talking about the
I'm
history.
asking
Watch
what
my-
I want to
watch-
hear both stories. Who are
Yeah.
the best sources to go to?
So I
Zion Zohar.
Yeah, but that's a book.
I
Okay.
could
I'm sorry, I'm not
recommend.
much of a reader.
Listen,
I'm getting
Okay,
a
well,
lot
watch.
of
anyway,
I'll tell you to watch.
We've come way off
Watch.
topic. This is like
No,
Jews
watch.
and Islam.
You want? No, I'll tell you.
You tell me
He
quickly.
can't tell you. Watch Netanyahu with Jordan Peterson.
I did.
Okay, watch that
I did.
podcast
I did.
and watch my podcast with Muhammad Hijab, and then you decide.
Thank you. I'll do
You
that.
decide.
If you
Okay.
can recommend any
No.
podcast, I'll
Okay.
watch it.
On that note, ladies and gentlemen.
Adnan just spoke
You've got
for.
a channel. You've got a channel. I don't watch it.
No, I have to go now. Joseph, thank you. Thank you very much. I hope you wake up. I hope one day you look at your children and start feeling sympathy for the Palestinian children as well. Thank you very much. Bye now. Okay. Thank you so
Well
much.
done.
Thank you.
You guys can shake hands.
No, I don't. Not as that. Not after this.